brought to you by 365 by Whole Foods Market, the splurgiest way to save. Mavs, Clippers. Clippers needed to win Game 6 and 7 to move on. They took care of Game 6 Friday, then came out and did the same last night, thanks to Kawhi Leonard, nearly posting a triple-double. As for the Lukas, some call them the Mavericks. Luka Doncic, again, a one-man show, doing his part, 46 points. But the Clippers are moving on now to face top-seeded Utah. Here's Paul George after the win.
They pushed us. They definitely got us war ready. It's a great team we played. Unbelievable superstar and Luka. They pushed us. They played really well. They challenged us. But we stuck in there. We hung in there. We played for one another.
What do you think you've been able to prove in this series and even last year in the playoffs?
I mean, nothing yet. We've been in the playoffs twice since I'm there. We lost both times, so nothing yet. You get paid to win, so we didn't do it.
Luka looks sad. I mean, he is, but he also looks it. We got NBA champ, friend of the show, Steven Jackson, joining us now. Steven, good Monday morning. Great to have you. Let me ask you, what was the main reason the Clippers won Game 7 over the Mavericks?
Well, the stars came out to play, but the supporting cast came to play as well. The playoffs is about adjustments, and the coaches that made the best adjustment was Ty Lue. In Game 5, he made the best adjustments, and they were able to continue to play that way and continue to win games to win this series. You had Reggie Jackson step up. You had Morris hit shots. You have to. Luka's great, but one player can't win a playoff series. Yeah, you can play. You can do that. You can dominate in regular season. You can play well in the regular season. But playoffs is totally different. One person can't win a playoff series, and Luka definitely needs some help. But he went against Kawhi, who was definitely the star of this series, and the supporting cast just fed off him and played the way they needed to play. It's going to be a little difficult next series, but they did what they needed to do. So you got to give your hats off to T. Lue for making the best adjustments in the series.
Big bro, what a phenomenal weekend. I ran into you last night at the fight, and then we're sitting around watching all this amazing playoff basketball. The Nets take down the Bucks, Game 1. Then the Clippers, they win Game 6, Game 7. I mean, hell, it would have been the perfect weekend for me if Bubba Wallace would have got it done in NASCAR in the Cup Series. Nick, I told you, I'm going to let you and Stack and Wilds break down all the game and get into the nuance of the game. I told you this was going to happen. They fall behind 0-2 in the series. They tie it up, and then they go to Game 5. Your son comes out, have a monster game. He couldn't miss anything. I think he scored like 42, 44 in Game 5. And then all of a sudden, facing elimination. You're talking about they're going to blow up this whole organization. Kawhi Leonard, is he going to Miami? What is going to happen? What do you do with Paul George? And then they dominate Game 6, dominate Game 7. So look, Nick, Ty Lue was the answer. I told you the championship pedigree was going to come into play in an elimination game, Game 7. He played man and Kennard in crucial minutes in the third quarter.
That's right.
Phenomenal job by him, sitting guys on the bench. And then you got Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, this whole series, did people forget how good he was? If this dude has one bad game, one bad quarter, the whole world say, remember when you said you were the king of LA and they just want to throw it in his face? This dude averaged over 32 points. He averaged over 62% shooting in the series, Nick. You got to respect them. And playing and going against the Jazz, you got to go with them, man. Give them their flowers, man. Stop this nonsense.
Okay, hold on. Well, listen, we can talk about the Clippers long-term later. But the idea that they've salvaged everything by winning their first-round playoff series, when for the last 2 years they've been the favorites to win the whole damn championship, we're putting the cart a little bit before the horse. But they did have to win these last 2 games, and they did. And as far as Kawhi, he's unfairly maligned, no, he isn't. He was brutal in Game 7 last year against Denver, which is why when he was brutal in Game 5, the pressure was on him. And how did he respond? Game 6 might have been the single greatest game Kawhi's ever played. It's certainly in his top 4 all time. So no question, he was a perfect basketball player in Game 6 on both ends of the court. And in Game 7, he wasn't quite as good, but he was an A+ in Game 7 instead of an A quadruple plus like he was in Game 6. So why, Wilds, did the Clippers win Game 6 and 7? Well, I just talked about the Kawhi stuff, and Brandon and Steven said the Ty Lue stuff. Those were the two most important people. Ty Lue saying, Patrick Beverley, you are not only been a starter on this team for years, from before when Kawhi even got here, but also in some ways the emotional heartbeat of the team. You're not only not starting, you're not playing. Terrence Mann, this second-year energetic player that has actually been really good for us, I'm giving him your minutes. You're going to deal with it. Ivica Zubac, you have been our starting center for 2 years. You're not playing either. You're not starting, you're not playing. The coaching, call it intestinal fortitude it takes mid-series to make those types of switches is what makes Ty Lue one of the most underrated coaches in basketball. And so I give him a ton of credit, and I give a guy like Luke Kennard, Wilds, who had been DNP coach's decision for the first half of this series, came in Game 6, played poorly. He stayed ready. And in Game 7, he made big shots. Reggie Jackson, who I've been very critical of, made 2 massive shots when the Mavs were trying to make it a game late. So the role players stepped up. Kawhi was brilliant. And Ty pressed all the right buttons, Wilds, and that's how you win back-to-back must-win games, despite the fact that Luka went bananas last night.
Okay, so I like the first part of what you said. They're like, we're out here throwing parades for the Clippers to get through the first round. All the other NBA championship squads or teams that we think can hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy, it was light work for them in the first round. So the fact that they had to drag this out, lose almost every single game at home, is something to be celebrated. I'm just taking a breath. Because, Stack, for this next series, that's not Boban in the middle. That's Rudy Gobert. And you don't just have to stop Luka. You're going to have to stop the 6th man of the year, kind of the 6th man with an asterisk, Joe Ingles, and Donovan. So I don't think this is going to be an easy path for them. The only thing that I kind of think is that the Clippers felt like such an emotional team that they needed to get over this hump, that maybe that will carry momentum. But how do you see the series playing out, Clippers Jazz?
It's going to be interesting. Obviously, in the playoffs, you got to make adjustments, and each level of the playoffs each round of the playoffs is another level of basketball. And you really can't really harp on how the Dallas series went, because each series gonna bring its own obstacles. And you're going to go through ups and downs in every series, but they figured it out. It's about getting through that series and getting to the next.
That's right.
Playing against Utah is going to be harder. You don't have to worry about one guy. But everybody has to come with that same attitude. Serge Ibaka has to get healthy. Boogie Cousins is going to have to be ready to play. It's going to be a different dynamic. But these guys are up for the challenge. You want to go through some ups and downs in the playoffs. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have guys get injured. You're going to have guys miss shots. But if the goal and just going through the ups and downs and getting through it and winning is so much sweeter. Nobody wins the championship with just a cakewalk. You're going to go through some ups and downs, and this could be good for them. This could be good for them going into the second round, because they know not to take no team easy. They know they have to come out and play, and they realize that in order for them to be successful, everybody have to come with their A game. You can't rely on one player, i.e. like Luka did.
Yeah, and look, all year we've been talking about this team in a clutch. They're not a clutch team, and then talking about their mindset. This is the type of series that you need to get over the hump. That's why the last 2 years, a lot of people pick them as their team to come out the West, is because you look at the roster, you look at this team, you say they have it all. So the only thing they were missing was that breakthrough. So this team, top 10 in offense all year, top 10 in defense all year. Kawhi stepping up, and in the biggest moments, we were talking about, who's going to guard Luka? Well, he did that in the second half.